30 minutes of qualifying action about to get underway for the Superbike class here at the Circuit of the Americas. In yesterday's session, Josh Herron able to bounce back with that provisional pole position ahead of Cameron Beaubier, and Bobby Fong, our championship leader, with 2 crashes during the course of 40 minutes of action. And Bobby on the outside of the front row provisionally as we get ready now for action to get underway here in the Superbike class. Rog, we've been able to see obviously the track conditions a lot improved over the course of today, and with the qualifying tyres being used during this session, we'll be keeping our eyes peeled for those yellow banded Dunlops.
Yeah, and also for the Superbike guys able to make a lot of changes overnight with electronics and bike setup, so it's going to be a lot of changes going out this morning. It's going to be a big session for Bobby Fong after the 2 crashes yesterday.
Yeah, it's going to be a really big session for Bobby. Obviously, he came to Mid-Ohio with 4 in a row. He won the opening race as well, and we were able just to see that confidence that he's been able to show over the course of the summer.
Yeah, and you see there early on the smoke in the back there. Rider spills oil, a couple riders go down, do a restart. You see Josh Herron wasn't happy with the oil dry that was down, but it was Cam Beaubier going to lead him down into turn 1 on the restart, but Bobby Fong works his way into the lead pretty quickly with Josh Herron as well, and then he has trouble getting the bike slowed down. You can see the oil dry there, then the rear end steps out also for Josh. You can see just the frustration that he had, and out front you see Bobby Fong leading Cam Beaubier. JD Beach there on the stock 1000 inside the top 5 there early on in the race, and you see Bobby here making the move on the brakes at the end of the back straightaway. Beaubier gets out into dirt, runs off the track, but able to keep it on 2 wheels, and this is the battle for 2nd and 3rd. JD Beach in the stock 1000 is going to end up on the podium with the 3rd, with Sean Dillon Kelly on the Vision Wheel X-Star Suzuki's 2nd.
Yeah, and for Josh Herron, he finished down the order, and when you look at what we've seen over the course of the last couple of rounds, only 11 points for Josh Herron over the course of the last 3 races, and that's why we've ended up in a situation where the top 3 in the championship are separated by 27 points, with Bobby Fong leading the way after that fantastic run of form that he had during the course of the summer, where he won 5 races in a row. He had some issues in race 2 last time out in Mid-Ohio, and was still able to come away with a podium, and he's got all that confidence, Rog. We know that he's going to finish off the season doing a couple of wild cards and World Superbikes as his reward for his form this year. He knows coming into this weekend how important it is to be able to bring the fight to Beaubier and Herron, because this is the one track where Yamaha would have known and the Attack Performance team would have known that this is the one track that's going to be a big challenge for them compared to the BMW and Ducati.
Also, you've seen that mistake with Beaubier, the brakes going down in at the end of the back straightaway, Mid-Ohio, running off the track. He lost a ton of points in that running off the track there on that last lap, and that was costly. Yeah,
and you can see there from yesterday's sessions, a 2:08.0 from Josh Herron is our provisional pole time, and 10th of a second faster than Beaubier. Bobby Fong, despite those couple of crashes, still up there provisionally on the front row of the grid, ahead of the 2 Suzukis as well. Good performance at the end of that session, Richie Escalante and Sean Dillon Kelly to put themselves up on the top 5, but Bobby Fong's the story of the day from Friday.
Yeah, and for Bobby, was having such a good day, really strong, especially through that first sector where the Yamaha was working so well. This is the end of the session there, a crash at the end of the back straightaway. Kind of a weird crash. It doesn't even look like he was pushing that hard. He didn't have any personal best sectors. But 2nd crash for him during that session, but pretty easy crash.
Took responsibility for the first crash as well, and for Bobby, obviously, we saw that the team had to work hard during the course of that 40-minute session to get the bike repaired, and they're still up there on that front row of the grid. Obviously, we know that once they put the qualifying tyre in, that's when we're really going to see the true pace of everyone. But what was interesting yesterday was 5 miles an hour down on the speed trap compared to Herron and Cam Beaubier, and a lot of time lost down that back straight whenever you're actually giving up 6 miles an hour to Cam Beaubier as well during the course of that. So we know that that's going to be the big challenge for the Yamaha around here. No surprise coming into this weekend that the long straight was going to cause that issue for them. But this first half of the lap where you've got the sweeping sections, the Yamaha working really well.
Bobby is so fast, and that Yamaha through this first sector yesterday, I mean, putting a lot of time. You know, and the back straightaway there, the big disadvantage is passing. You know, that's going to be the easiest place to make a pass when somebody's down that back straightaway. But Bobby's a good rider, and he knows that, and he'd be trying to put some time in between him and his competitors in this first sector and not let them even get close to getting in his drive.
You can see there as well on this opening lap, Bobby's not pushing too hard. You can tell that with Max Flinders climbing all over the back of him, but certainly in this first sector we saw yesterday in and around the sub 36 is his fast time, so we'll keep an eye on that during the course of the first couple of laps to see if anyone's on course to move up ahead of Josh Herron's provisional pole time at 2:08.0. But Rog, we know that into the last 10 minutes when everyone puts the qualifying tyre on, that's when the 13 rider field here in the Superbike qualifying class should be able to set their fast times.
Look how much Herron closed up on that back straightaway there. I know Bobby's not pushing and broke a little bit early as well, and you know, all these riders are trying to get behind Bobby. Josh is trying to get behind him even though he led yesterday. Looks like something's hanging off the back of Bobby Fong's bike, but the two Suzukis out there right behind these guys as well.
First rider to put in a flying lap is Hayden Gillum. We didn't see him in the qualifying session yesterday. He's moved himself up onto the front of the third row with the grid provisionally with the 2:09.7, but at least for Hayden, important to be able to get that lap time in. And for Bobby Fong, it looks like that's the rain light at the back of his bike, and immediately he's coming into the pits just to get that repaired. But Rog, over the course of a session like this, can't really afford to lose too much time. We're 5 minutes into it already, and that means that it's going to be another few minutes before Bobby's able to set something that's a representative lap time.
I think for Bobby, this is not going to slow him down. He might hear the thing smacking around, but I think he's trying to get some clean track and just get his rhythm back, get his momentum back after those two crashes yesterday. You know, sometimes you just want to get out and do your own thing. You don't want people behind you. You don't want people in front of you, and try to get back in your rhythm.
Yeah, you can see here Richie Escalante leading his teammate Sean Dillon Kelly, and we saw those bikes or that paint scheme in the Super Sport class. It always looks even better on the Superbike.
Good.
You can see for Escalante leading his teammate, and he led the way yesterday for the Suzukis on the second row of the grid. And another good performance from both Suzuki riders in the qualifying session. Escalante up there inside the top 5, and that's the 4th time this season he's been able to do that, so he needs to try and consolidate that as well to make sure he's got the chance of being on that second row of the grid, because Sean Dillon Kelly, he has traditionally been the faster of the qualifiers on that bike this year.
Escalante really figured something out coming from Virginia and Mid-Ohio, and he's been fast. And both of these guys, if you look at yesterday's lap times, I mean, they were only about 6/10 off of what Josh Herron's best lap time was, so they're not too far off, even at a really long track.
You can see for Herron immediately coming back into the pits as well there before setting a fast lap time. And sometimes we see this, Rog, particularly for Josh and the HSBK team, minimising the track running during the course of sessions, and we know that whenever Herron puts in that qualifying tyre, he's going to be able to put in a fast time. And qualifying's probably been the one thing that, when you look at Josh over the years, that's been the one weakness. Yeah. He hasn't had that outright one lap speed, but you know that once he gets into a race, he's always going to dig in and fight for everything, and that's where his real strength comes out.
His real strength, when the light goes out, it doesn't matter where Josh qualifies, he always finds himself fighting for a win, and he's actually really improved the last couple years in his one lap pace. But you know, Josh just never gives up. It doesn't matter where he qualifies. Usually they set out the first couple minutes of this session. This almost looks like maybe there was something going on the way the mechanics were rushing over with the data.
You can see now for the Suzukis coming across the line, Richie Escalante and Sean Dillon Kelly both down into the low 209s right from the start of this session. That's about 0.4 of a second slower than both went in yesterday's qualifying session. And Rog, you'd imagine as well, using your tyre allocation is always important over the course of a race weekend. You wouldn't be too surprised if they're out there on the same tyre they finished yesterday's session when they did their single lap time attack at the end of it.
Yeah, and also for the the important part of the race is when the tires go off. That's when the bike really starts to move around and things start to change. So the only way to get all those laps on the tire is using some in both sessions, and start the session on one that you ended with.
You can see for the two Suzukis making their way around, and important weekends for them as well. 2 weekends left in the season, and the way that the rider market's looking for next year, especially someone like Sean Dillon Kelly in demand for next year, and plenty of seats available.
Yep.
You can see for SDK just closing in on his teammate Escalante on the run down in towards turn 11, and on this lap Escalante ever so slightly faster in sector 1 than SDK, but the lap coming back to SDK, particularly now whenever you come down this back straight, you're able to use that slipstream and find a little bit of extra top speed down that back straight. And interestingly for the Suzukis as well, we talked about the top speed disadvantage for the Yamaha. The Suzuki as well at a big disadvantage, around about 8 miles an hour, 9 miles an hour slower than Cameron Beaubier. Beaubier has just gone to the top of the times.
194 top speed. Sean Dillon Kelly 188, so you can see the difference.
Yeah, and when you're in that situation, Rog, as well, obviously you know that you need to have the draft to give yourself half a chance, but it's that pull out of the slow corner leading onto the back straight as well. That's where the BMW is able to use that drive, and it gets an advantage at the start and the end of the straight.
And some of it is not just always the top speed of a bike. It's a lot of it a rider who gets a really good drive out of that back straightaway makes a big difference as well.
Obviously for the Suzuki's just coming through to finish off this lap 10 minutes into the session. We haven't seen anyone out there with the qualifying tyre. We won't see that until probably the final 10 minutes of the session. But another 2:08.7 there from Richie Escalante. Jake Gagne moves up to the top of the time. She's just behind them on track with a 2:08.4. And that's about a half a second faster than Gagne went yesterday. So we're starting to see riders improve on their times from yesterday. But for the Suzuki, it's important just to get that race pace in and be able to understand what's going to happen during the course of the race, because this is going to be a tough race as well, Rog. We know it's going to be hot.
It's going to be long. It's going to be hot. Tires are going to be getting greasy. You see Beaubier now on a really good lap. Could potentially be the first 2:07 of the weekend. He has to put the last half of this track together.
Yeah, you can see for Beaubier, the fastest time so far this weekend for Jake Gagne, 2:08.4, and the fastest time we've seen so far all weekend, Josh Herron, in the low 2:08s as well. So Gagne has been able to improve on his provisional qualifying time, but we still haven't seen Josh Herron out there to try and improve on yesterday's fastest time. But Beaubier finds a lot of time there in sector 3. And Beaubier very much on course to move into those 2:07s. Could well be a mid 2:07 as well, with a good run through this final couple of corners. And Rog, we spoke about a lot during the Stock 1000 class about the traffic riders are catching. There's only 13 riders in this qualifying session in the Superbike class. It means that you should have clear track all the way, and you're able just to focus on yourself, just like Cam Beaubier is.
And it seems like Beaubier's bike really is strong. You see 2:07.7, best lap of the weekend. In the morning sessions, those second qualifiers, he's able to go out and really put in some really good laps.
Yeah, you can see the conditions improving a little bit from what we had earlier on this morning for our Super Sport qualifying session. We're already up by 5 or 6 degrees Fahrenheit, so starting to heat up all the way through the morning, and that's where we're probably now into that ideal range for the Dunlop tyres and for the Superbike class to be able to use that Q tyre at the end of this session and really try and go for outright lap records. We've already seen in the Stock 1000 class a new lap record. We saw it in the Super Sport class as well, so we know the track conditions are very good right now, Rog.
And Beaubier, his bike just looks planted. When we're watching the other riders, their bike, you can hear the traction control kicking in there as well. It just looks planted. It's not moving around. You see even here on the brakes where it moves a little bit, but not compared to a lot of the other riders. And I think that helps him get this run going down the back straightaway.
Beaubier qualified so well as well. He opened the season with those 3 pole positions in a row. He's had another 2 over the summer as well, and that's what his real strength is. We spoke about Josh Herron having his strength at the start of races and being able to get himself recovered from qualifying a bit further down, but one lap pace, Beaubier is so good.
I mean, sometimes you see Beaubier and you think there's no way anybody can go any faster than maybe a lap he put in or a lap he just did, and he goes out, puts a fresh rear tire on and just goes out and can demoralize you.
And then goes out and goes even faster on the second flying lap as well, because halfway through the lap he's on course to move the border even further away from the likes of Jake Gagne. And you can see now with a 2:07.7, the fastest time in the session so far. Gives up a little bit of ground in sector 3, Rog, but this should be down into those low 2:07s.
You see through that turn 19, we've seen a lot of chatter today. You didn't see a lot out of Beaubier. I know the Superbike's got really good suspension as well, but still they got that BMW working good this morning. Another
1/10 of a second for Cam Beaubier. Lost ground in the second half of the lap. And Roger mentioned it on the run down through 7 and 8 about the traction control kicking in. We could hear it there at the end of the lap as well. Turn 15 and the long right-handers at the end of the lap. You're always going to hear a lot of that through that section of the track, and that's where the riders have to rely on the electronics, and that's where the crew chief and the electronics engineer, the two most important people within that pit box for the rider to be able to make improvements with the bike. And if you want to be able to catch up on all the action throughout the course of this weekend, go to MotoAmerica.liveplus.com and you'll be able to watch all the different classes, the qualifying and the races. And you'll be able to check that out on MotoAmerica Live Plus. This is Josh Herron out on track now, and for Josh, our provisional pole setter, good first two sectors, Rog.
Yeah, good first two sectors for Josh. Good day for him yesterday, really finished the day strong. Going to be a tough weekend for Josh, coming in, riding injured, and trying to call some points back.
Let's have a listen to the Ducati V4 through the final sector. Audio Technica for giving us that insight there on the Ducati V4. And Rog, when you listen to that bike compared to the BMW, it's always interesting with the Ducati because the electronics always credited as being so strong in that package, and they're a lot less invasive compared to what you see on a lot of other bikes.
Yeah, you don't hear as much of the aids coming in, even on the brakes as well. It's not just getting on the throttle with the engine braking, but also electronics is big on the back shifts, so the bike doesn't back in as much. So you can definitely hear a little bit less aid for Josh on the Ducati.
You're going to be out on track on Monday as well on the Ducati. So you looking forward to it?
Oh yeah, I haven't rode since last year here, so looking forward to it. Always like getting out there and working with some students and helping people get a little bit better. Yeah,
and Josh Herron there, able to get back out on track 0.4 of a second slower than he went in yesterday's session. That's leaving him right about 0.4 down on Cambodia on the combined times from both sessions. We're into the second half of this 30-minute session, and looks like Josh just getting himself ready to come back into the pits as well. And then from that point on, right, that's when we'll expect to see the riders start to think about putting on their Q tires, start to think about being able to give themselves that chance for their fast laps right at the end of this session. But plenty of time left for riders still to do maybe one more stint as well. Hayden Gillam we catch up with on the number 69 machine. Hayden, after his problems yesterday, he's about 2 seconds down on Cambobier's fastest time in the session, and we've been able to see it through the course of this season for the number 69. Some really good qualifying performances. He's qualified on the second row of the grid 4 times this year.
And I think you're going to see riders come in a little bit earlier here at COTA because the track is so long compared to a lot of the other tracks, because they're going to need a little bit more time getting in the pits. Their out lap's going to be a little bit longer, and then also with the overall lap time being a little bit longer, it's just going to take more time.
Yeah, just seen on the timing screens as well, Bobby Fong's just put in his best lap of the session, but we haven't really seen anything representative from Bobby up to this point. Still about 2 seconds off what he was doing in yesterday's session. So we'll keep an eye here on Hayden Gillam after his problems yesterday where he wasn't able to set a time in the qualifying session. He's out there on the number 69 Honda, 6th fastest in this session with a 2:09 lap as well. So that's in and around that third row of the grid for him, and for Hayden Gillam, it's at least just being able to get those miles under his belt on that Honda to be able to get the experience before he puts in that yellow banded qualifying tyre at the end of the session. But Cambodia is still leading the way, the only rider in the 207 so far this weekend. And Rog, when we see the riders put in that qualifying tyre, who do you expect to be able to bring that charge to Beaubier?
Well, I think for Herron as well, he's really figured out the one-lap pace. Sean Dillon Kelly's qualified on the front row a couple times this year. And for Bobby Fong, I just feel like he's out trying to get back in the flow and kind of rebuild that confidence after 2 crashes yesterday.
See Jake Gagne here, teammate to Bobby Fong. He's in the pit box, and 12 minutes left in the session, and the number 32, 3rd fastest in this session. And from what we've been able to see from Jake over the course of this weekend, it has been impressive. In yesterday's opening morning session, we were able to see him top 3 in that, Rog, and he'll be expecting to be able to try and challenge for that front row of the grid again.
Yep.
Been able to see it over the course of this season from Gagne. That pole position at the Ridge, that was the highlight of the qualifying season for him. Front row last time out in Mid-Ohio as well, so we'll see if he's able to back that up.
Yeah, a big improvement today for Jake as well, as we see Josh now on another good lap, already a half a second down after the first part of the track.
Yeah, 0.3 of a second down on Beaubier's fastest time in that first sector. In the second sector, gave up 0.2 of a second in the first sector as well, and round about half a second in the third sector now as well. So Josh not really on course for a lap to try and challenge Cam Beaubier, but important just to be able to get the laps in at this stage as well. 11 minutes left in the session. He lost that running at the start of the session, Rog, so he's a little bit out of sync with everyone else.
Yeah, really the third sector this lap has really been the one that's cost him. He did a personal best in the second. So for Josh, I think he just realizes he's got to be able to put all these sectors together, and that lap time will come. And see him slowing down a bit. He's going to come in the pits and start getting ready for that qualifying lap.
Yeah, when you look at it, we've got just over 10.5 minutes left in the session, so it'll be 8.5 minutes left in the session by the time he gets over to the team, and then you're just making that change onto the qualifying tyre, and you'd expect in the final 5 minutes that's when Herron will go out. With that Q tyre around such a long lap like this, do you think it's only going to be one lap tyre, or will you be able to get a second lap?
I think you're going to be able to get a second lap with a qualifying tyre these days. It's not quite has the grip as the old one lap, like a Super Pole tire or qualifying tire. So I think and I like that better as well, because if you make a mistake or you get held up with the lapper on the first lap, you're not just ruining your opportunity to get in a good lap. But I will say, though, the long right-hander turn 17 and 18 will put a lot of stress on the right side of the tire.
See, Rog, that's the difference between being the ex-rider and just being a commentator. I love the old system where if you made a mistake at turn one, your whole weekend was going to be compromised. There's so much pressure on riders, and obviously that makes it really difficult for the teams and the riders, because in the old days with that single lap qualifying tyre, you knew that any mistake was going to be punished for the rest of the weekend. Bobby Fong, the first rider, leaving the pits with that Q tyre. We can see the yellow band on his rear tyre.
As a spectator now, I would prefer the one lapper, because it is more exciting, because it is so costly and so much pressure on the riders. But when I was riding, I would prefer the second lap. It just depends if you're someone who makes mistakes on the first one.
It really depends. If you made a good lap with the first tyre, you only want the one lap. But Josh Herron, 9 minutes left in the session. We've seen Bobby Fong leaving his Q tyre. You'd imagine that Josh is going to be the last rider out on track with that Q as well, just with the way that the laps have gone over the course of this session as well. But Bobby leaving the pits, and we'll be able to see what his lap times are going to do. But Cam Beaubier with the fastest time so far in this session at 2:07.6. And Rog, we have seen it where you haven't needed to use that Q tyre at times during this season as well. The race tyre able to get some very fast times from the riders as well. So the Q tyre, maybe around a track like this, it could give you a little bit of an advantage compared to some of the other tracks we've been at. But it's all about being able to hook up that lap and be able to get the most out of yourself.
And we talk a lot this weekend about the bumps causing a little bit of front chatter. More rear grip can make that worse. So you could actually lose a little bit time as well with the front chatter coming from the grip on the back.
Josh Herron into his pit box. The team now just getting ready for his final qualifying run. And for Bobby Fong, he's out there halfway through his installation lap, and we'll be able to get a good indication of what he's going to be able to do once his lap gets underway. But 35.8, the fastest time we've seen so far in the first sector, and that'll be our first indication for where Bobby's at. You can see there the change has been made to Josh Herron's bike. New tyres front and rear, and Josh will get himself back out there as well. And down in the pits you can see the crew just getting themselves ready for Josh to get himself out there for his flying lap as well. And we've got a little bit of a lull here now before Bobby Fong starts his flying lap. Michael Hill, what can you tell us down the pits?
Yeah, just stood down here alongside the Warhorse HSBK bike, as you rightly said there, Steve. New front tyre, new rear tyre going in as well. Josh Herron just inside the canopy. I'm going to try and jump over the wall actually and see if we can just get a quick word with Josh. He's just putting some cold water on his neck on a towel. It is so hot down here. Josh, have you got time for a very quick word? Okay, Simone is saying no. No, he's very apologetic down here again. It's one of those things, isn't it, in a live qualifying session, whether or not you can get a chat. But as he said, I'm going to go straight back out. So yeah, Josh Herring coming in, a little chat to Simone, and it was literally changed the tyre. There are no other changes going on that I can see. Looks like Herring is going to come out now with a Q tyre to do his push lap, Steve. So let's keep our eyes on what the defending champion can do.
Josh Herring fastest of all in that final sector, and we'll see if he's able to give himself the chance to consolidate that front row pace that he has right now. But Cambodia 2:07.6 is his fastest lap. Bobby Fong is into his first flying lap of this stint, and we'll be able to see what the number 50 is doing on his fast lap as well. And Bobby 7th fastest in this session, but we saw yesterday that he was able to qualify provisionally on that front row of the grid. 2:08.4 still his fastest time of the weekend, and that's good enough for the second row of the grid right now. So Bobby on the first stint, on the first sector, Rog, new personal best right from the start.
And Bobby needs it. I think he needs a little boost after a couple rough day yesterday. Josh is going to head back out, and he had that little issue early on in the session. That's why right now he's trying to rush to get back out. Not
fast in the first sector for Bobby though, half a second off the pace, and he'll be looking to build into that second lap of this one. But we've seen he's 7th fastest in the session so far, and not really finding anything in that second sector as well compared to Cambodia. 0.8 of a second is the gap now for Bobby Fong as we catch up with him as he comes through the third sector, and it's going to be about that second lap if he's able to make the tyre last and give himself that opportunity for another fast lap, but not where he needs to be.
So far this session, almost 2 seconds off what he did yesterday, so those crashes have been costly.
Just coming through to finish off this third sector, and again loses another 0.3 of a second there, and his fastest time from yesterday, still his fastest time of the weekend, and it's going to be his fastest time of the weekend until his last qualifying lap as well, which will start in a few corners time. But Bobby's not on course to improve on his qualifying time. Into the final corner for Bobby Fong. We've seen plenty of other riders leaving the pits. We saw Josh Herring leave the pits. Cambodia is into his qualifying stint now as well, and just about to start his first flying lap as Bobby Fong comes across the line at 2:08.7. Finds a lot of time in the final sector compared to what he's done so far this weekend, but still 0.3 of a second down on his fastest time of the weekend as he moves into his second lap of this stint, and needs to find some lap time now on the number 50, because the last thing he can afford is for Herring to be right up there at the front of the field, and he's having to attack through the course of the races to bring himself back to the front. But looks like he's trying to push on this lap, and 36.4 last time around in sector 1. He needs to be down into those 35s, and we'll see what it is whenever he comes through in sector 1.
36.0.
At least he's been able to find half a second so far, and if that was the case, it would give himself the opportunity to challenge for the front row. But it's moving goalposts here in the qualifying session as everyone's out there on their fast laps.
And for Fong, I think he really just needs to get his feeling back with the bike that he's had all year. When we're on that big winning streak, goes out in the green, very little bit, see a head shake.
And for Bobby, just heads down in towards the end of the back straight as well. And if you want to play MotoAmerica for cash throughout the course of the season, check out the Superbikes, Baggers and Super Sport series. They're now live on top sportsbook and DFS platforms. Scan the flow code or visit nxtbets.com/playma to see what's available in your location. Bobby Fong is not on course to improve on this lap, Rog. He's lost time in that second sector.
Yeah, that second one you could just see a little bit of a head shake when he comes out of this left-hander. The third sector should pop up, and we'll see. It's not better either. So just really good beginning of the lap.
His teammates, the rider to keep an eye on right now. Jake Gagne, 1/10 of a second slower than Cambodia on this lap, but Bobier 2/10 of a second up on his fastest time of the weekend here halfway through the lap. But look at Gagne as well in his Yamaha. He's making his attack performance Yamaha work well, and Gagne could well give himself that opportunity to challenge for the pole position here. But Cambodia with the 2:07.6 fastest lap of the weekend so far. He's up by 3/10 of a second now coming into the final sector. We'll keep an eye on what Jake Gagne is able to do in this lap as well. We know that the likes of Sean Dillon Kelly qualify well. He's trying to give himself a chance to be up there in the front row of the grid ahead of Josh Herring. Josh half on his final stint with a personal best in the first sector. We'll see if he's able to improve in his time. But Beaubier hits the final corner here with 2 minutes left in the session. He'll have time for one more fast lap at the end of this one. But Cam Beaubier, he's about to move the goalposts a little bit further away from the field. A 2:07.0 and finds so much time in that final sector as well. That's a great lap from him. And Jake Gagne with a super lap here as well, 0.3 of a second down, 2:07.4 from Gagne. Sean Dillon Kelly did move himself up onto the front row of the grid, and for Josh Herron on his lap, he was a 1/10 of a second faster than SDK in the first sector. He's a 1/10 of a second slower in the second sector. We'll see what he's able to do in the third sector to see if he's able to give himself the chance to be up there on the front row of the grid as well. It was a 2:08.1 from SDK, and through 3 sectors, Josh Herron a 1/10 of a second faster than SDK, so could move up onto the front row of the grid.
You could just make up a lot of time through that long right-hander with the qualifying tire. You can see here just how much sooner the guys are able to get on the throttle, and Herron's going to get another lap also if he wants it.
Herron's going to have time for another lap. Cam Beaubier has given up on this lap, as has Gagne. SDK with a decent lap, decent first sector, but he's just been pushed off the front row of the grid by 0.3 of a second by Josh Herron, and halfway through the lap doesn't look like SDK is going to be able to improve on his time, so it looks like Josh Herron is going to have that front row of the grid spot in P3, but Cam Beaubier, Jake Gagne and Herron that provisional front row of the grid right now. SDK, Escalante and Hayden Gillum doing a good job to be up there on the second row of the grid, but Bobby Fong not able to improve on his Q tire, and Fong is still going to be up on the second row of the grid in the combined times, a few 1/10 of a second faster than Hayden Gillum, but not where Bobby needs to be. P6 on the grid right now as it stands. On this lap, Josh Herron with a good first sector as well, so Herron with a personal best in sector 1. He needs to find around about half a second to move up ahead of Jake Gagne on his final lap of the session. We're just about to see the checkered flag coming across now, and most riders aren't on course for a fast lap other than Josh Herron, so with the checkered flag out, anyone that finishes their lap, that'll be their session finish now. But Herron, the rider we need to keep an eye on through the second sector. He's given up a little bit of time in sector 2, but the rider he's trying to chase down is Jake Gagne. Needs to find a half a second. It's going to be tough to do that. You can see how hard he's pushing though on the brakes down in towards the end of the back straight there, Rog. He's trying to give himself the chance to find that time to move up ahead of Gagne, but not on course for it halfway through the lap.
And when you're fortunate like this toward the end of the qualifier, it's just super easy to override a little bit and make a couple mistakes.
And you can see for Josh Herron, our reigning champion, just giving himself the opportunity on this lap once again, but decent third sector, but looks like it's just that thing, Rog, where with the Q tire, the grip just starting to drop off, and not on course to improve on his lap time now for Josh Herron, but I think he'll be pretty satisfied with the outside the front row of the grid, given that over the course of the qualifying campaign so far this season, we've seen him on the front row of the grid just twice, MotoAmerica and the Ridge. Everything else has been on that second row of the grid, so good qualifying performance compared to the rest of the season for Josh Herron, and exactly what he needs to do with Bobby Fong up there on the second row of the grid. But Cam Beaubier with another pole position, and he's backing up just what he did in Mid-Ohio last time as well, and that is the 6th pole of the season for Cam Beaubier, where once again we're able to see that one lap pace coming to the fore for the number 6 BMW. For the 2025 season, Tom Duma Fine Jewelers of Ohio will produce custom championship rings and pendants for the MotoAmerica champions in the Superbike, King of the Baggers, Supersport and Mini Cup classes. They'll work with each champion to choose from several designs with retail values between $12,000 and $15,000. For Cam Beaubier, we've been able to see him wrap up some championships in the past, Rog, and having claimed that all-time win record in the MotoAmerica classes, he's now given himself the opportunity to start from pole position for this weekend's races, and pole by 1/3 of a second from the impressive Jake Gagne and his Yamaha ahead of Josh Herron, our reigning champion. Sean Dillon Kelly and then Bobby Fong and Richie Escalante will be our second row of the grid. Bobby actually able to hold on to a top 5 position in this one. Hayden Gillum, we saw, wasn't able to get out on track yesterday. He's going to be on that 3rd row of the grid.
This could be a big day for Beaubier. You see where Bobby's at right now. If he doesn't kind of get that rhythm back he's had all season, it could be a big points day.
outside of the front row for our Superbike class will be the number 1 bike, and Josh Herron we saw lose out in a little bit of running at the start of the session. Raj put him a little bit out of sync with his rivals, but third on the grid, good performance by him.
Yeah, and I think that's where he wants to be, just put himself in the fight for Josh, and he'll be aggressive early on. Jake Gagne, great qualifying for Jake as well, really good lap for him, able to put himself in the middle of that front row.
Yeah, great effort from Jake on the 32 machine, and the leading Yamaha with his teammate and championship leader Bobby Fong qualifying from the middle of the second row of the grid. But once again in the qualifying session, we're all chasing down Cam Beaubier, and the number 6 able to claim that pole position and give himself the opportunity once again to lead off the field, and that'll be his 6th pole of the campaign. And Beaubier trying to make sure he's able to claw back those points to Bobby Fong in the championship standings. Will be in action this afternoon for the opening race of the weekend in the Superbike class. 17 points is the advantage for Bobby Fong, and Cam Beaubier trying to chase that down. For Cam Beaubier, 0.3 of a second is the margin over Jake Gagne, and really good lap here at the end of this session to be able to claim that pole position. And Beaubier over the course of the season, as usual, being able to show that 1 lap pace. That's the big strength for Beaubier, and we're going to get the opportunity to hear from him down in pit lane with Michael Hill.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Down here with the pole man for the 6th time this season. A stunning lap for Cameron Beaubier. We'll just give him a second just to take off the helmet. Jake Zemke down here just about to give him a bottle of water as well. It is very, very hot and humid at the Circuit of the Americas this morning. And Beaubier still in with a shout of the 2025 championship. Takes off the helmet. You can see there. Just give you a second to mop your brow there, mate. It's very, very hot today. 6th pole position of the season. You put the BMW M1000, the Titleist Cycle Racing BMW, on pole position, doing exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, feeling good on the bike. Made a little change overnight, and yeah, we like it. So, gonna be 2 long races this weekend. This place is pretty physical, but yeah, luckily the Titleist BMW is working really good around here. I really enjoy riding here, and yeah, just thanks to my team for working so hard. And yeah, now it's grind time.
Excellent. We'll let you hydrate, and we'll see you on the grid a little bit later. Stay with us on MotoAmerica Live Plus. Mission King of the Baggers qualifying is coming up next. Stay with us. There's more after this short break.
Introducing Spectro Performance Oil's heavy-duty product line. Engineered not just for performance, but for endurance. Spectro offers leading engine, transmission, and brake fluid products, which are proudly made in the USA since 1966. Performance, reliability, quality, and tradition. Because every ride should feel as smooth as the first. Spectro Performance Oils.
Excellence isn't a goal, it's our standard. Because we only run in select circles. The winner's circle. Every battle, every climb, every sacrifice leads to domination. The pride, the legacy. Carved in iron, sealed in victory.
What can we do as a group to give back to the sport in which we love? And that's how Back on Track was formed, which included Wayne Rainey, Scott Parker, Ronnie Jones, Charlie Roberts, John Winslowitz, and myself, Tom